Hey, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and today I'm going to take a look at the Bigtreetech K Touch. So let's go ahead and get started. So recently, Bigtreetech sent me the K Touch, and I'll be honest, I'm not very familiar with this screen, but I thought it would be great to install on my Mercury One. I'll be honest, I'm not particularly pleased with the way the Mercury One's working for me, and I'm going to do a follow-up video once I have the screen installed, really looking at upgrading and tuning the printer and probably changing the print head and see if I can get some better results. I think what I'm going to do is switch over to a stealth burner. But anyway, the first thing I want to do is just install the K Touch and take a look at the features that are there. Now, I did not pay for this, but I'm going to give my honest review of the K Touch overall. So with that being said, let's take a look at the box and go ahead and open this. Now, I have the Amazon page up on screen. I'll put a link below in the video description. Currently, it's Black Friday, and probably this is going to be 20% off approximately. That's what it seems like most of Bigtree stuff is this weekend. So if you're interested, now might be a great time to pick it up. So let's look at the features and look at what this could do for me. I'm looking at the About on the Amazon page, and it looks like it's set up for wireless control. It looks like it's compatible with my MP8, my Mana 8 that's installed on the Mercury One. It looks like it's compatible with a bunch of printers, particularly Clipper-based printers. Now I'm noticing that it also has limited wireless capabilities from the standpoint of you don't have to have it plugged in. Now they're talking here about a 30-minute battery life, which I'll be honest, that seems pretty short, but I guess maybe that would be helpful. And I'll look more at the documentation to see if I can figure that out. That seems like, again, a weird thing to talk about here. So let's go ahead and try this and see what all we can do. So let's start with an unboxing. So as you can see, I haven't even opened this thing yet. I have it sitting on my desk. It's still sealed. I'm looking at 800 by 480. Looks like it's going to be a pretty good display. I'm noticing that's only 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. That's okay. I have that set up on my network. And I have other devices that can only use that. So let's open this up and see what she comes with. Now, yes, the screen itself feels pretty beefy. And let's open this up. And looking like we have USB-C here, power. So it looks like we have an I2C connection. We have off, power, and then it looks like battery power. Now, I'm looking at this and it does say something about Panda here. And this is supposed to be, again, the K Touch. Now, I think that this and the Panda are very much related. Now, let's set this aside and see what else we have in the box. Surprisingly, I'm not seeing a rubber duck, but that's okay. And that may be in this box here. I have a separate little box. Let's put the packaging aside and let's open this up and see what we have. Nope, there's the rubber duck. I was wrong. So we have a little stand, and I'll have to see how that gets mounted. Now, it says something about magnetic. I guess I'm assuming this sticks here, and then probably bolt this into my printer, but I'll give it a, we'll take a look at that in a second. So there's definitely magnets here in the back, because I can see from this Allen key. Yeah, so there's 4 magnets there. And let me try sticking this to a frame So the magnets aren't strong enough to stick to the frame. So that's not a surprise. Now, let me look at the directions here and see what we have. Now, let's look and see if we can find the English. There we go. So it looks like we have a positive and negative for the charging pad. And, oh, so this is a charging pad, so I guess this just sticks right on here. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. So that's actually pretty cool. And let me see if I can figure out how this goes on. So it sits on here and plugs in. Those magnets are really strong too. So, and there's the connections for the charging. So, okay, it's detachable. That's pretty cool. See, so let's look at this. Charging cable. Okay, so it does say the battery is, again, about 30 minutes. So it's very limited on battery. I'm not really sure in my case that helps us any, or that's something I'd really want to use. So we have the mounting bracket here. And maybe this is supposed to sit like this and screen like this. Now what I'm going to do is go over to my Mercury 1 and I'll see if I can figure out how best to mount this. Now, not really seeing much else in the way of instructions here about setting it up. So that's sort of interesting. I bet I'll have to go to their software information. I'll have to look at the QR code. So again, let's take a look at this. Let me see if I can figure out how I want to mount this, and then we'll see what we can do. Okay, so looking through the directions, here's how I hooked up that screen. Now what I don't like is I wish there was holes here so I could actually bolt this to the frame on my Mercury 1. But what I'm going to do is mount it at the bottom. I'll use this tape to stick it to the extrusion. Go something like this. And we'll see how that sticks. And we'll see how good that works. Now it came with 2 sets of screws, M36 flatheads, put those aside. Now for me, the power is the middle power. This off so we can see. The middle power is battery. The DC 5 volt is for actual USB-C power. What I'm going to try to do is connect this to the board on the printer, run it through, and let me see if it comes on. And then we'll switch the camera over there and look at the setup as we're typing everything in. I just have this sitting on the top of the case on my Mercury 1. I haven't bolted in place. Now what I am seeing is that the USB-C can get power right off the board. So this is plugged directly into the Mana board. So I'm just going to select English, hit next. I have my router here, and I actually have a mesh network. Okay, so I attempted to set up the Wi-Fi via USB power. That wouldn't work. So right now I'm actually using it in the battery mode, and I was able to connect to Wi-Fi. When I did it via USB power, it just went to reboot over and over again. Now, when I hit next, my next issue is, although I'm on the same Wi-Fi, it's not detecting any of my printers. And it really, really wants me to add an IP address, which right now I don't have. Let me see if I can actually pull the IP address on my Mercury 1. So I'm looking at let me look at the config of the Mercury 1 and see if I have this set up where I can actually tell what the IP is. That doesn't work. Let me look here. Somewhere here, it might tell me the IP, or I'm going to have to look this up on my router, which again seems sort of silly. And I wish I could just type in a name because I have this set up and everything works fine like that. So it's looking like, and this is sort of aggravating. Let me see if I can find the IP address and then we'll enter in the IP. So it looks like I'm looking on my phone. I have an IP address. So let's manually add this printer. And I'm going to do 192. So I've connected to the printer. I'm just going to hit next and see if this works. Let me compare that. So that is all working. So we're now working. And let's look here. So what I should be able to do is find the IP address of so the IP address is this. So let me enter that in my browser, and then I should be able to update the firmware, because I'm thinking that might help me some. So let's go over, and I'm going to enter in the IP. Okay, so here you can see that I've connected to the manager settings. Now it looks like, I guess I'm going to have to go over and download the latest software. Okay, so I've gone over to the GitHub, and it looks like I need to download this firmware. So I should just be able to hit raw, and that downloads the file. So now I have it downloaded. So I'll go back over here, hit update firmware, and I'm just going to choose that file. Open, and that should be updating the file. Okay, so I realized the mistake I made. The power is not strong enough from the board, so I actually need to plug this in directly to a power source, which is okay because I'm connecting to the printer via Wi-Fi. Now it looks like there's a two-step process here that I've missed. So I've updated the firmware, but then I also have to hit this update file, and that's actually going to be this image file. And so I need to update that as well. So once both those are updated, that should update the file system. And it looks like we were successful. And if we switch back over to the device, you'll see this actually looks to be updated. Nothing in the USB. I actually like this better. So this looks pretty good. Now that was actually fairly easy to do. Cancel. Just looking through the interface here. And let's look at the system info. So that is showing us as updated. And what I'm not seeing is how do I update the device name? But I don't see that. But with that being said, I actually feel like this looks okay. So we have different controls here. So let's check the end stop status. And right now, the Y end stop is triggered, X and Z are not. And that's actually correct. based on how I have things set up. So Z offset, see what widgets we have. So it looks pretty cool. So I should be able to use this. Now, if I'm reading it correctly, I should be able to use this to control up to 50 printers. Now, in my case, I definitely don't want to do that. I just want it for this one printer right now. Now, what I'm going to do is, right now, I'm going to attach this to the printer just via the tape here and just leave that as is. Now, I'm a little unhappy with the way I'm having to run this cord, but we'll just leave that as is for right now. I'm just pointing out that running it from the USB-A to the USB-C power, I'm not getting it pulling enough power to actually run the K Touch. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with this. This gives me a screen on that printer, which I don't have, and lets me look at things. I also like the fact that there's some ability here to do some diagnostics. So we'll play around with this a little bit and see what all I can do. So right now, if you have any questions or comments, this seems like a pretty neat device. For $60, I actually think that's pretty good right now. And I'd consider buying these and using them for my printers. Now, I do like the fact that this is connected via Wi-Fi. And this may be something where I want to buy another one of these, basically to put downstairs in case I want to monitor my printers. Now, what will be interesting, and I'll have to see, is if there's a way to actually see the camera via this. I'm not seeing that, but I can play around with it some more and see what I can do. But if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. Thanks. Have a good day. This is Mike again. If you're having trouble with your 3D printer, I'm putting a link in the video description of how you can schedule a 15-minute consult with me. I'm more than happy to sit down with you, see if we can figure out what the problem is, see if we can get your printer rolling. Also, if you would like to support the channel, I've enabled memberships. And so for a small monthly contribution, you can help support my work. Now, ideally, what I'm going to do is use any money, and same for the advertising I get for the channel. I'm going to use that to buy more 3D printers and more equipment and more technology that I could use here on the channel. If you have any questions or comments, please post below, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.